I'm glad to introduce our work to everyone today. The title of our paper is Learning Domain Adaptation with Model Calibration for Surgical Report Generation in Robotic Surgery. First, I will introduce the motivation of our work. Generating a surgical report in robotic assistant surgery in the form of natural language expression of surgical scene understanding can play a significant role in document entry task, surgical training, and the post-operative analysis. This allows the surgeons to focus on patient-centric activities and we are full of endless imagination for the scenes where robotic surgeons perform operations in the future. Therefore, we hope that the robots can achieve comparable capabilities as humans in surgical scene understanding. Now, we will introduce several types of traditional architectures. Vector sequence models take in a fixed size vector as input, and it output a sequence of any length. In image caption, for example, the input can be a vector representation of an image, and the output sentence sequence is a sentence which can describe the image. However, the RNN networks have some problems. The RNN networks are slow to train, and they cannot deal with long sequence very well. We get gradients that vanish or explode if the network is too long. The long short-term memory cell has a branch that allows the past information to skip a lot of the processing of the current cell and move on to the next. This allows the memory to be retrained for a longer sequence. So in this case, we are able to deal with longer sequence. However, for the RNN and the LSTM networks, the input data needs to be passed sequentially, one after the another. We need inputs of the previous state to make any operation on the current state. Such sequential flow does not make use of today's GPUs very well, because today's GPU is designed for parallel computation. So can we parallelize the sequential data? Yes, the transformer-based model can achieve this. Before jumping into our paper, let's recap the knowledge behind the model, the transformer, and the meshed memory transformer, M-score transformer for short. Our architecture takes inspiration from the M-score transformer for image captioning. The transformer comprises an encoder made of stack of self-attention and feed-forward layers, and a decoder which uses self-attention on image regions. Take image caption, for example, or word, take language translation, for example, and cross attention will be used over the output of the last encoder layer. And we must be careful because each source code was designed for a specific problem. The source code which was used for language translation problem may not fit an image caption task. M-score transformer incorporates two key novelties with respect to all previous image caption algorithms. One is the relationships between image regions are modeled via persistent memory vectors, and the other is encoder and decoder layers are connected in a mesh-like structure. Now we will introduce some related work which is related to domain adaptation. The left figure presents an illustration of domain shift, while the classifier can be effectively trained using the labeled source domain data, but it lost the classification validate on the target domain due to the existence of domain shift. That leads to serious performance degradation in fault diagnosis. The domain shift problem is expected to be solved by jointly minimizing the classification error and the distribution discrepancy between the source and target domain. In the right figure, the proposed architecture includes a deep feature extractor, which is showing as green color, and a deep label predictor, which represent the blue color. These two networks are together form a standard feed-forward architecture. Unsupervised domain adaptation is achieved by adding a domain classifier, which is connected to the feature extractor while a gradient reversal layer. The gradient reversal layer will multiply the gradient by a certain negative constant during the backpropagation training. Otherwise, the training proceeds standardly and minimizing the label prediction loss for source examples and the domain classification loss for all examples. The gradient reversal layer will ensure that the feature distribution over the two domains are made similar. This one will result in the domain invariant features. Now we will introduce the network in our work. The whole network consists of an image region feature extractor, the transformer-based multi-layer encoder-decoder, and a gradient reversal domain classifier network. We choose the lightweight feature extraction model of ResNet 18 to extract the region features in input image. The domain adversarial network, which consists of a gradient reversal layer and a domain classifier, is connected with the last encoding layer to distinguish whether the sample is from the source domain or the target domain. The encoder block forms of a memory augmented self-attention layer and feed-forward layer, and the decoder block consists of self-attention on words and cross-attention over the output of all the encoder layers. There are 3 encoder and decoder blocks stacked to encode the input features and predict the word class label. So in conclusion, the image encoder incorporated with domain adversarial neural network takes in the region features and learns the domain invariant features with an adversarial learning scheme, and will try to understand the relationship between the image regions. The language decoder will read the output of each encoding layer to generate the output sentence word by word. The stacked sentence can form a medical report. Now we have a big picture for the network, then we will introduce the important components in this network. In feature extraction, the computer don't understand the word or the image. They get numbers, the vectors, and the matrix. The idea is to map every image region to a point in space where the same class are physically closer to each other, and the space is called an embedding space. The skewed dot product attention actually is the most vital component in transformer-based model. Attention operates on 3 set vectors, namely a set of queries, keys, and values, and take a weighted sum of value vectors and according to a similarity distribution between the query and key vectors. It can be formally defined as a forced equation. In the case of image caption, Q, K, and V are obtained by linear projecting the input features, and the operator can be defined as a second equation, where the X is the image regions. When using the image region as the input set, it can naturally encode the pairwise relationship between the regions that are needed to understand the input image before describing it. The transformer-based model uses multi-head attention in different ways. The encoder part contains the self-attention layer. In this layer, all of the K, V, and Q come from the same place. In this case, the output of the previous layer in the encoder. The decoder contains the cross-attention layers. In cross-attention, the Q come from the previous layer, and K and V come from the output of the encoder. Now the decoder reads each encoding layer's output to model a probability over word. In the vocabulary, and generate the output sentence word by word by feeding the predict word back as the input as the next step. We can say again. The domain classifier forms of the gradient reversal layer with a discriminator and trains in an adversarial manner to learn the domain invariant features. It trains with a label that's a 0 label for the source domain and 1 label for the target domain. We propose 2 significant improvements of the gradient reversal layer domain classifier module. The first one is we assign the discriminator with 3 classes, 0 for source, 1 for target, and 2 for extra class. And this one will enhance the model learning capability, which will make the discriminator hard to be fooled during the training. The second one is we integrate an additional fully connected layers to boost the feature learning. The gradient reversal layer domain classifier leads to appearance of features that have a distinction for the caption task and the domain invariance at the same time. The model attempts to learn a representation, allowing the decoder to predict the word class, also weakening the ability of the domain classifier. Now we will introduce the dataset used in our work. The source domain dataset is from the robot instrument segmentation dataset of Mengya endoscopic vision challenging. We have collected the target domain dataset of transoral robotic surgery using the Adaptation robot on human patients. All 9 patients all have this kind of cancer. Among these 9 patients, there are 8 males and 1 female with age ranging from 23 to 72, and multiple cancer sites. The datasets are annotated with the appropriate caption by an experienced surgeon. The caption follows the description pattern of Object 1, Predicate, Object 2, which can accurately convey the information of surgical scene. For instance, a monopolar curved scissor is cutting tissue. Compared with the source domain, the target domain has a different surgical background, and the surgery is performed on different tissue. Besides, the target domain does not share all surgical instruments with the source domain. The target domain has 2 new instruments. We plot the 3D TSNE, which can prove the domain shift. In this TSNE picture, the one indicated by blue color are examples from the target domain, and the zero which indicated by red color are examples from the source domain. Also the histogram, which is the frequency distribution of intensity values which occur in the image, can also demonstrate the domain shift between these 2 domains. The table 1 shows the overall performance of the proposed approach with validation and the domain adaptation settings. All target domain experiment settings share the same validation set, and we just use a different number of training examples. In UDA means unsupervised domain adaptation. The model trained on source domain and will be evaluated directly on target domain. In zero-shot DA, the trained model is fine-tuned with frames whose caption will cover 85% of the words in the vocabulary from the target domain dataset. In one-shot DA, the pre-trained model will be fine-tuned with image whose caption cover all the words with the smallest amount of images. In few-shot DA, few image whose caption cover all the words are used to fine-tune the pre-trained model. We found that our method achieve better performance in almost all the metrics. We also visualize some examples predicted by our proposed model for the source domain and target domain and compare the predict caption with the ground truth and the predict caption from the base model. These are more visualization from the source domain. These are more visualization of the predict caption from the target domain. We also do the ablation study, which evaluates the importance of label smoothing. The extracted feature of the penimellate layer for ResNet 18 with or without label smoothing is shown in left figure. The TSNE plot shows that the extracted feature with label smoothing are more distinguishable and tighter class and have the tighter clusters for the same class. The right figure shows the caption prediction performance with and without label smoothing feature extraction using the ResNet 18. We found that the label smoothing can extract feature better and boost the prediction performance. This ablation study will show the importance of each component. The Table 1 demonstrates the comparative scores with the target domain prediction and calibration error. The result indicates the better performance of the calibrated model on the domain adaptation task. Table 2 shows the effect of each proposed technique in this work. Gradient reversal layer domain classifier boosts the model performance from both source domain and target domain dataset for most of the metric. However, the label smoothing produced a significant enhancement in source domain prediction, and Table 3 demonstrates the extra class in domain classifier will improve the model performance by enhancing the model learning ability. In conclusion, we will summarize the contribution from our work. The first one is we propose the transformer-based multi-layer encoder-decoder architecture with a gradient reversal adversarial learning scheme to generate the surgical report in robotic surgery. And we also investigate the model calibration with label smoothing cross entropy loss for feature extraction and the performance of the LS for domain adaptation experiments. We also designed the domain adaptation in various unsupervised or semi-supervised manners, such as zero-shot, one-shot, or full-shot training. We annotated robot-assisted surgery dataset with proper captions to generate the surgical report in 2 different surgical domain datasets. These are our future work. Sometimes we observe the predict caption and found that sometimes there are redundant words at the end of the predict sentence, which may be caused by exposure bias problem and the word level training by using the traditional cross entropy loss. This problem will be solved by introducing a reinforcement learning training technique to achieve the sequence level training and fine-tune the sequence generation. And we will take a casual effect look at the training to achieve the unbiased surgical report generation from videos, which means we will incorporate temporal information and to achieve the class incremental domain adaptation. That's all. Thank you.